One. Hi, this is Bruce Rawles. I'm speaking again with Susan Dugan. And today our Course in Miracles topic is Chapter 18, Section 7, I Need Do Nothing. And we were both commenting on how appropriate that is for all of us and both of us.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd depart from our usual format after Susan introduces why this inspired her and kind of read through the entire section and then go back and comment on more detail. So yeah, thanks for bringing this up, Susan. This is very appropriate for me too. So
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably appropriate every day.
yeah, yeah.
But I wanted to do this section because a week ago, we're recording this on a Saturday. Last Saturday, I had a few things that went on. My daughter and son-in-law had visited, and they left. It was a very quick trip, so there was a lot of emotion around that. And then I met a friend for coffee in the afternoon, and we had a nice talk and at a little coffee shop near me. And then the next morning, she texted me that she got sick overnight and got COVID. And so obviously I had been exposed in a way that, where you're leaning across the table with someone that's pretty, I mean, if you're going to get it, that's the way you get it, right? So, I mean, after the vaccines and boosters and, I have all that. So anyway, I had already been feeling somewhat stressed because our utility, our Wi-Fi carrier, which is Xfinity, had given us a notice on our door on that Friday, that we were going to lose internet, that they were doing work in the area on that Monday. And I was under a real time pressure with an article I had to get out for work and some things that were going on.
Mm.
So I immediately went into, when I learned that I had been exposed to COVID, I was already thinking that I might want to do some preemptive work to try to make that happen in case I lost the internet. But it really I seized the opportunity to really like panic and, pushed myself really hard to get all this stuff done as much as I could before Monday, which just further stressed me out and probably, also weakened my immune system some. And so then on Monday, we did end up, I got up early. I still was feeling relatively okay. And I, I was able to hook up my Wi-Fi to my phone, and with just like as a hotspot, which is something that you can do, I guess, and sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, but it did work. So I was able to, kind of go right to work in the morning, and I was, make really good progress with this thing. And we did lose internet, but we didn't lose it all day. And, I have a real mistrust from past experience with this particular utility. But they did what they said they were going to do in much less time. It was just a few hours. And so the point is that everything sort of worked out. And I immediately thought of this section, I Need Do Nothing, and the story of Helen, that Ken tells often, and about how the scribing of this came to her as a message for her over, I believe it was an elevator strike that she was concerned about.
Mm.
And where she, there was a threatened strike, and she got very worked up about it and worried that going up this staircase. I hope I'm telling this right, but I think it's basically this. They lived in a skyscraper, and she was convinced that it would be detrimental to their health to go up all those steps, and or that she and her husband Louis would get separated. And so she had all these anxieties and fears about it, and as a result, checked into a hotel for a week, and not ever realizing that the strike was resolved before it ever happened, and put herself through a lot of expense and stress and all of that. So my example is much smaller in the hierarchy of illusions perhaps than that, but it really resonated to me that this was something that I may have still, if I had been right-minded at the time, I may have still taken some precautions, to try to get a little bit of work done. But the frenetic quality that was, that I put myself in as a result of choosing the ego as my teacher and that defensiveness rather than really, going to my right mind first, choosing the quiet center, this, that this section talks about, of trust, where we trust our, um, we're not at a point where we can completely trust our vulnerability, or we wouldn't know this course, we wouldn't need this course. But to be at a point of recognizing that I needed help would have probably helped me shift into a state in which I could go through all of this quite peacefully, and probably wouldn't have been as, probably would have taken it a little easier on myself. And so it's there are many more examples of that in all of our lives every day. But I think that that one really it brought it home to me in a very real way, because I could see what I was doing kind of even as I was going through it, and I did it anyway. And I so then I did go to this section finally and read it. And as that was happening, I was finally getting sick with COVID. Not nearly as sick as I had, you would be with you if you had no immunity, but I did have some, it took me out for a few days. But so I wanted to use that as an example before we go into reading this, because this is really something about, I think for me, this section is really about trust in, our inner teacher, and that loving presence within our mind that knows that there's nothing outside us that can truly, in the dream, however fraught it may seem, that can truly has the power to take our peace away, unless we want to identify with the defensiveness of my belief in the personal self. And that's not to berate ourselves. It's not to, but it is, we are asked to look at that and look at we acted out in our lives. And so I think this is a good example of a way that I acted it out. And how we can maybe apply, as we're reading through this, this, you know,
Yeah, yeah. And I like you say, we all have countless examples.
yep.
And
Trying to micromanage, trying to control the
yeah,
dream, trying to fix the dream, trying to defend ourselves against the dream and the dream figures. And, instead of choosing peace first and then going through whatever, the dream is the dream. What's coming in the dream is something that my mind chose on a level that I'm not familiar with quite yet. But that is still, I can still, give it two purposes. And if I give it the purpose of practicing forgiveness and learning the peace that is always there and supporting me, then I will have taken a big step, and the process of, I finally did notice that. And that really is the practice a lot of the time for us, is sort of the backing out of our wrong mind, the recognizing, wow, I put myself through a lot of crap over that. And it was so unnecessary, you
yeah.
know.
The phrase "needless suffering" comes to mind,
Yep,
and when we catch ourselves and just say, "Oh yeah, I guess like Ken often says, I must have been afraid of the love that's behind and beyond that
exactly.
avoidance and that resistance." Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's okay. We'll all outgrow
Yeah,
that at
it's
some point.
okay, but it was actually a great learning experience,
Yeah, yeah,
another step actually in the right direction. Because I saw the mistake and I chose again. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very good. Yeah, I had well, just very quickly, um, an experience going to a new dentist, and I was starting to be apprehensive, and I did catch myself thinking, well, just because someone didn't have a positive experience doesn't mean I don't, I should have the same experience. And I ended up having a wonderful time actually, and had a crown replaced a couple days ago, and it went just great. And um, it's just I kind of realized that, like Ken was saying, make it about the other people, and to a
Right.
person, everyone in that office was super helpful and friendly and patient with me, and we had some good conversations, when my mouth, of course, wasn't being worked on, but it was just a very positive experience, and I just realized, yeah, it wasn't so much about the tooth, it was just the interactions, and
Yep.
yeah, so, but I was, the doing nothing in that case was, my starting to go down the road of being concerned about, other people's experience kind of thing. And I just, caught myself 2 or 3 times. I was like, wait a minute, I don't really want to go there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
But like you say, it can apply to so many things throughout the day, and just all the things that we do physically, but also mentally, the places that we traverse. Yeah. Yeah. Should we just go ahead and read this, and then, because
sure.
I'm sure it will bring up plenty of things, and we talked about just reading it straight through. So how about if I just read the first paragraph, and
Okay,
I'll take the odd ones and you can take the even ones. How's that sound?
sounds good.
Okay. This is from chapter 18 of the text of A Course in Miracles, entitled Passing of the Dream. And this is section 7, I Need Do Nothing. And it begins with, you still have too much faith in the body as a source of strength. What plans do you make that do not involve its comfort or protection or enjoyment in some way? This makes the body an end and not a means in your interpretation. And this always means you still find sin attractive. No one accepts atonement for himself who still accepts sin as his goal. You have not you have thus not met your one responsibility. Atonement is not welcomed by those who prefer pain and destruction.
Okay. There is one thing that you have never done. You have not utterly forgotten the body. It has perhaps faded at times from your sight, but it has not yet completely disappeared. You are not asked to let this happen for more than an instant, yet it is in this instant that the miracle of atonement happens. Afterwards, you will see the body again, but never quite the same. And every instant that you spend without awareness of it gives you a different view of it when you return.
At no single instant does the body exist at all. It is always remembered or anticipated, but never experienced just now. Only its past and future make it seem real. Time controls it entirely, for sin is never wholly in the present. In any single instant, the attraction of guilt would be experienced as pain and nothing else, and would be avoided. It has no attraction now. Its whole attraction is imaginary, and therefore must be thought of in the past or in the future.
It is impossible to accept the holy instant without reservation unless, just for an instant, you are willing to see no past or future. You cannot prepare for it without placing it in the future. Release is given you the instant you desire it. Many have spent a lifetime in preparation and have indeed achieved their instance of success. This course does not attempt to teach more than they learned in time, but it does aim at saving time. You may be attempting to follow a very long road to the goal you have accepted. It is extremely difficult to reach atonement by fighting against sin. Enormous effort is expended to the attempt to make holy what is hated and despised. Nor is a lifetime of contemplation and long periods of meditation aimed at detachment from the body necessary. All such attempts will ultimately succeed because of their purpose. Yet the means are tedious and very time-consuming, for all of them look to the future for release from a state of present unworthiness and inadequacy.
Your way will be different, not in purpose, but in means. A holy relationship is a means of saving time. One instant spent together with your brother restores the universe to both of you. You are prepared. Now you need but to remember you need do nothing. It would be far more profitable now merely to concentrate on this than to consider what you should do. When peace comes at last to those who wrestle with temptation and fight against the giving into sin, when the light comes at last into the mind given to contemplation, or when the goal is finally achieved by anyone, it always comes with just one happy realization. I need do nothing.
Here is the ultimate release, which everyone will one day find in his own way, at his own time. You do not need this time. Time has been saved for you because you and your brother are together. This is the special means this course is using to save you time. You are not making use of the course If you insist on using means which have served others well, neglecting what was made for you, save time for me by only this one preparation and practice doing nothing else. I need do nothing is a statement of allegiance, a truly individual, I'm sorry, undivided loyalty, also individual. Believe it for just one instant, and you will accomplish more than is given to a century of contemplation or of struggle against temptation.
To do anything involves the body, and if you recognize you need do nothing, you have withdrawn the body's value from your mind. Here's the quick and open door through which you slip past centuries of effort and escape from time. This is the way in which sin loses all attraction right now. For here is time denied and past and future gone. Who needs do nothing has no need for time. To do nothing is to rest and make a place within you where the activity of the body ceases to demand attention. Into this place the Holy Spirit comes and there abides. He will remain when you forget, and the body's activities return to occupy your conscious mind.
Yet there will always be this place of rest to which you can return, and you will be more aware of this quiet center of the storm than all its raging activity. This quiet center in which you do nothing will remain with you, giving you rest in the midst of every busy doing on which you are sent. For from this center will you be directed how to use the body sinlessly. It is this center from which the body is absent that will keep it so in your awareness of it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I just thought it might be interesting just to mix it up a little bit and just read the whole thing straight through and then talk about it. But there's so much in there, isn't there? I mean, any
Yep.
parts that jump out for, I mean, we could pick things out of each paragraph, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, you know, yes, it is hard not to go back to each paragraph. I mean, with this because it's making different points throughout. So,
Definitely.
but I mean, in the first paragraph, he's really emphasizing the whole idea of planning and the preemptive kind of the control that we try to exercise to, like I was talking about, to manage, to try to manage our dreams as if that was as a dream figure that was really possible. It's not. It's the dream figure, the hero of the dream, is doing nothing. Um,
A-
so
And their
so
efforts tend to not work.
right, there's no way that we can manage
Yeah.
this. We don't know what's going on. We're hallucinating. It's the
Mhm.
whole thing is it's a matter. I mean, it strikes me that this entire section is really about purpose,
Mhm.
and you know it's really about changing purpose. Practicing forgiveness is changing purpose, changing teachers, changing from the Holy Spirit, from the ego to the Holy Spirit, or that loving presence in my mind, the voice of sanity in my mind. And that is always a very present decision that is available to us. But when we get caught up worrying, trying to stress about the past and then mitigate the future, we're nowhere near the decision making mind. We've run away from the mind. We've wandered really deeply into the dream. And the correction for that is right now to recognize it, to look, to notice that I'm doing that, and to remember, okay, what is the overriding purpose of my, what is my ultimate goal um, in this dream? Do I really want to keep rooting myself in a dream that's causing me a lot of suffering, or do I want to use it to take another step toward awakening? And at this point in my practice, I want to, but my mind is still split. I still go in both directions, but I remember more quickly that I want to, that my real purpose is not the dream. And I may quarrel with the dream still. I may lose my cool. I may really still struggle in my personal relationships or my special relationships, but I have a goal, I have an overriding purpose, and I'm capable right now of remembering that purpose, which brings me back to the present decision as a decision-making mind outside the dream, that I want to join Jesus in the quiet center. That the raging activity around me is going to rage, but I don't have to jump into the chaos of it. I can go through it peacefully and do the normal things that I have to do, but I can go through them, maybe not completely believing yet that they're not real, but with peace, with grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, graceful in the terms that we know it
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than true grace, but yes, yeah, I mean, much more gracefully, much more graciously, remembering that that everyone's fighting the same hard battle, and we're all facing a lot of terrible obstacles in our dreams, and it'll be okay. What's the whole point of this really is to learn that we're safe, and we're headed in the same direction. We want to go home, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, yeah.
To everything you said. Yeah. Yeah. And I was just thinking that yeah, that phrase in the last paragraph, the quiet center, when I read that, I was almost thinking, read that again, because just the feeling of those two words, the quiet center,
Really a lovely,
the safety and
yeah,
the calm and the ease that
right,
is behind, the mellows that Ken talks about, the context of the whole course, that when that phrase appears, it's like, oh yeah, that's the home base in my mind. That
yeah,
where above the battleground, where Holy Spirit keeps leading us to that place of peace, where we can just look with gentle, patient, but persistent amusement at all of our crazy shenanigans we do with our mind. And like you say, the decision maker, we try to, you know put that down into the world, which is not only denying the ego thought system, um, as our focus, but also denying the fact that we could you know we can see that I'm not upset for the reason I think I'm not upset by what's happening or not happening in the world. And there's that double shield of oblivion again. And
mm,
the body is a source of strength. Well, what plans do you make that don't involve its comfort or protection or enjoyment in some way? Well, that's our dream hero, escapades on a daily basis. But if we can just kind of
right.
watch that and smile. I was also remembering, I think in one of Ken's talks, he actually emphasizes each word in that four-word phrase of "I need do nothing," and brings out how, if you look at the I, well, I, the decision-making mind, associated with ego, need do nothing, because if I'm doing anything with that switch in
As
that
a personal
position
self,
as a
right.
personal self, yeah, I'm going to just be floundering around aimlessly, and you
Not
know
gonna go well, right.
not going to
Yeah,
go well.
yeah.
Exactly. It's yeah. And then the need, another tip off word of, if there's a need, that assumes there's a lack typically. It's like
Mhm.
the only need really is to accept the atonement. And it says we haven't met our one responsibility, which is, if there was a need, that would be it, right? And then do usually implies some kind of action, typically doing something in the world of form instead of the content. And then the nothing is, well, there really is nothing in the world that we need to be upset about and to be concerned about. Doesn't mean we, as we all know, with the course's emphasis on looking at level confusion, it doesn't mean we stop doing everyday stuff. It's just we do it with a different teacher, and that teacher keeps us in that, keeps leading us back to that quiet center.
Right, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really that what you're saying about the personal self not being able to, do this, it's really that recognition that, if I'm struggling through something, then I'm not I've chosen the wrong teacher, it's not going to go well. I really do, I have a choice I can make right now, and that involves stepping aside, the ego stepping aside, and being opening at least to um, that quiet center, the safety, the true safety and innocence and invulnerability that is, that includes everyone's highest good, right? Every fragment of the decision-making mind is cradled and held in that. So when I return to that, paragraph 2, where he says, he talks about there's one thing that you have never done. You have not utterly forgiven the body. It has perhaps faded at times from your sight, but it has not yet completely disappeared. You are not asked to let this happen for more than an instant, yet it is in this instant that the miracle of atonement happens. Well, I think that in that probably we have done that, and we have at least done that in an instant.
Mhm.
And we haven't made the final choice, but we're ascending, hopefully, through our choices that we do make, and the guilt that's being released through those every moment that we choose the right mind and realigned and remember our purpose. We are having an experience of that quiet center, and it changes everything. That when he talks about that the atonement, accepting the atonement for yourself, well, we haven't ultimately accepted it, but we're trying it out. We have a glimpse of what it feels like to be free of me. There's no awareness of me and my needs and my fears and my anxieties and all of that in that holy instant. There's just that release and relief of being, of being unburdened from that guilty self. And there's no exceptions that we're making in that instant to exclude anyone. We're just really, we're in that quiet center. We have that for a moment. We share that vision of our right mind, and so we develop trust by choosing right now again, to open to that awareness. And every time that our fear subsides enough to do that, and we notice that this is just too painful what I'm doing, and I'm willing to get Susan out of the way, then I do have those shifts. And at that point I am peaceful. The frenetic quality that I was talking about earlier is gone, and so you can just sort of flow through what you have to do without it being this trauma and drama that it feels like when we're not doing that, when we're trying to struggle through as if as if I'm me, as if me is important, and all important really, because if we're in that state, we're driven to protect ourselves. That's just the way it's, the dream, we set the dream up.
I was just going to say that defensiveness is just such a tip off, isn't it? When we find ourselves
Mhm.
needing to defend anything
Yes.
about what's in it for Bruce, or all that kind of stuff. It's like, there's a
Yep.
clue. There's a big clue.
Yep.
And then the shared interest, when we, even if we just recognize that that might be a more peaceful alternative, that alone is.
Right, because like in that example that I gave at the beginning, I think part of that too was, that not trusting the people around me enough to believe that if I can't deliver the product, that would be somehow not okay, um, and that's a judgment on my part that is, there's no basis for it except my own fear, my own our, well, he says somewhere in here, our own sense of unworthiness, right?
Yep. Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, that was at the actually the end of the fourth paragraph. Yeah. Yet the means are tedious and very time consuming, for all of them look to the future for release from a state of present unworthiness and inadequacy. Yeah, there it is, huh?
And that paragraph, he really talks about other spiritual paths. He's
Right,
referring
right.
to with, more paths that are more, about denying the body and purifying the body, and or trying to, through contemplation and meditation, to clear the mind, and of basically it doesn't deal with guilt, but of all of the crazy thinking and nonsense and judgments and all of that. But and that works too, ultimately, but it can be a very long route, as he's saying. And I personally found it, I tried that way and was very bad at it, and didn't really, for me, and everybody's different, but for me it didn't get at the guilt, in that sense of being, the awareness, the self-awareness, and which ends up being self-hatred, that I have very unkind thoughts, that I don't I'm unkind. My thoughts are unkind toward others, and they're unkind toward me, and it's painful. And there has to be a better way.
Yeah.
So,
Looking at the mind with the Holy Spirit seems like the you know the, if there is such a thing as a shortcut, that would be it.
yeah, yeah,
And
it
I
is.
was thinking as you're saying that about a book that I'm inching my way through is Love Does Not Condemn, which is probably Ken's most scholarly book. And he talks about, and at some length, about the two paths of libertinism and asceticism. Basically go for all the gusto, or being, live like a monk kind of thing. And
Cover it up, right? Or
those extremes, but both of them make the
or
body real.
deny.
They
Yes,
they both basically deny the Holy Spirit's assessment that um, you know, sure, to not deny your experience in the world, but deny ego's interpretation of it. And I think that's the crucial thing that we're all learning to do, is just say,
yep,
well, what if I don't have to buy into ego's misinterpretation of everything? Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. And then that kind of ties into that third paragraph. And just to jump back a little bit, and no single instant does the body exist at all. And
That's
that that's
fearful stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Or
it
the
is.
disappearing, the body disappearing, that he mentions too. Like, do we really? Most of us are not there yet.
No, oh no,
I
no.
don't want to. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see that, just watching your own mind, how quickly we rush to fill in, even gaps in silent, in the noise of the
absolutely.
world.
Yeah, it's not a quiet world, and
Physically, if
we.
not
Yeah,
metaphorically. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I like silence. I get very distracted if there's, and kind of agitated if there's too much noise. Some people don't. Some people really, kind of love that. But on the other hand, I can't sit still most of the time. I'm like always going and moving and doing, and
Yeah,
so yeah.
me
So
too. Me
it's,
too.
we all have our ways
Yeah.
of running away from now.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah,
Now I'm going to jump to the fifth paragraph.
yeah,
And like you say, this this section really covers a lot of ground, because now it's jumping back to the holy relationship as a means of saving time. And
yes,
there's the doing nothing, I suppose, would really be recognizing that we don't have to do anything to other than not to interfere. I think that's
yeah,
the phrase that usually comes after that: do nothing except, you know just don't
forgive.
interfere. Just don't interfere.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ken has said,
Yeah,
I need to do nothing but forgive,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is the, not the forgiveness that we normally think of in the world, but
Mhm.
is the course's unique sort of practice of this, which does involve changing teachers, changing purpose, making a different decision, recognizing that, I'm wrong. If this is not the way I want to go, and I'm not upset for the reason I think, as you mentioned, lesson five, and
Mhm.
there's a part of me that's peaceful, and if I'm not peaceful, I need help, you know. So yeah.
Exactly. And since this is starts out talking about relationship, then it jumps down to, it would be, now you need, but to remember, you need do nothing. It would be far more profitable now merely to concentrate on this than to consider what you should do. Well, usually, when I read that, I think, gosh, there's all these things that I think I should do in order to improve my relationship with the people I live with, or that I work with, or
Right.
all those shoulds and oughts and things,
And all the
and
magic that we employ and all
all the
the,
magic. Yeah,
yeah.
just that's just whole huge categories of things.
Hmm.
And just to allow. It doesn't mean we don't plan, don't have calendars, don't all that kind of stuff, but just
Right.
to allow the like you were talking about earlier, the grace and the flow, and the willingness to not necessarily have a spontaneity on the level of form, although that oftentimes is a reflection, but just to be willing to expect a miraculous mind to show us that there's nothing to fear. There's nothing we
Right,
really need to be
right,
afraid about. Yeah.
right. And to be able to, move through the going back and forth of the split, because our mind is still split. We're
Mhm.
we're we're changing teachers all the time
Mhm.
because we're choosing from outside the dream to do so. But to just notice it and move on, I mean, I got a little stuck at that with this example that I gave, but because in my mind it was like too many things coming at me. I've got to. I probably could have dealt with Xfinity, but but when you threw the COVID at me too, and the emotional stuff that I was already dealing with, it just was like, okay, I gotta do something now. And but to just, more and more kind of notice that, and in more sort of daily ways as things come up, to just, catch yourself sooner, and just say, I mean, I find myself often now saying, that way lies madness, and just, stopping myself. And if you can stop yourself before you go, off into, crazy land, it's, you'll save yourself some time and some pain. But if you forget, that's okay too. You'll find your way back, because, again, there's that purpose, and we can't really completely dissociate it anymore. That I've made that commitment. And so, it's not that far from my mind, and it will nag at me now. I know what I want to where I want to go, and I'm going against it, and it's not going to feel good. So, you know.
Yeah, that catching it as soon as you can is so helpful. I was thinking of the analogy of a snowball going down the hill and becoming an avalanche. And fortunately, even if we just totally, space cadet out and find ourselves at the bottom of an avalanche, no real harm has been done, and Jesus will pull us out of the snowbank, no matter how deep it is, metaphorically, right? So
Well, and better to stay as present as possible,
yeah,
because I
yeah,
don't know about you, but the dream's pretty rocky. There's a lot going on.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, you're going to be, if you can just catch it one, thing that comes up at a time, you're much more apt to be able to kind of stay in that flow, and just kind of navigating, okay, I need to turn back to the quiet center. And but again, if you follow one thing down, then it's a given in the dream that there's going to be many more things that seem to pile on, and off you go, like really deep. So, it's better to kind of just stay as present as possible, because right now, I can change my mind.
yep.
I have a choice always right now.
Mhm.
um, and if I find myself obsessing about the past, or, trying to mitigate, as I said earlier, and manage and control what might happen in the future, I'm often running into insane territory. So,
Yep.
yeah,
It's kind of like the suggestion in the course to, begin your day with a, period of quiet contemplation. And, I oftentimes will, first thing I do is read today's lesson on my phone, usually in
right.
hypnagogic state kind of thing. But, you know, the day isn't lost if you find yourself suddenly being upset. Just
No,
like any time is a
any
perfect,
moment, right?
perfect time
Exactly.
to hit the reset button and switch over to Holy Spirit from ego. Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah. Um, I'm looking at paragraph six, line seven. I need do nothing is a statement of allegiance, a truly undivided loyalty. And right, yeah, like we've been saying, right now our
Purpose,
loyalty is
yeah,
very divided, but that it's not so much an affirmation, but just a recognition that there's that awareness that in truth we never really need to do anything on and as an ego. I mean, that's again that I need to do
right,
nothing to interfere. Yeah,
right.
with
Yeah.
the
Usually
guidance.
to accept back out of whatever mess we chose for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, yep, back to the quiet center.
yep. Yeah. And then in 7.3, the quick and open door through which you slip past centuries of effort and escape from time. It really does seem like if we can just catch those moments before they snowball and go from, and just essentially they seem to be perfect storms, but they're perfect forgiveness classrooms in any
Right,
moment that we
exactly.
look
Yeah.
at them. Yeah. And you know, any instant is a perfect opportunity to say, oh yeah, I could see peace instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to end soon. Just we've got my husband has some people over, and it might start getting a little noisy in here. So
All good. Yeah. We can just
yeah,
maintain that the quiet center in our minds as we
yeah.
wrap this up and go about our
Okay.
day. And anyway, thanks again, Susan, for a wonderful
Yeah.
conversation
Thank
and
you. I think
great topic. Just what I needed to
I
get out.
really do think it's one that, you should have on your rotation for listening to or reading or something,
Yep. Yep.
often.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you have any announcements you'd like to make or?
I don't.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
how about you? Yeah.
Nothing much other than I just always encourage people to check out your website, forgiveness.com, and I'll also
And the
post this.
foundation
And of
always,
course,
but
yes,
yes,
the two
right.
Foundation for Inner Peace and Foundation for A Course in Miracles,
For Course in
uh,
Miracles, yeah.
acim.org and
There's a
FACIM.
new, I just am blanking on the name of it, but they've had some new releases lately, and there's one, I think it's Specialness. I can't quite remember the title of it, but it was if you go to the website, they usually show new releases, and so which means that it was a recording that was done that had not been previously released, and
Seems like they've
um,
got a huge backlog of those
they
then.
have, I think, hundreds.
Yeah.
And it's always exciting to me when one of those comes out because,
Mhm, mhm.
it's like, oh, I mean, it isn't as if I've listened to all of the things that are available, but I've listened to a lot. And I just, a lot of the ones that they're releasing are from the more recent years of Ken's workshops. And so it's, yeah,
They're
so
all so good. Yes.
they're great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
Always
thanks again.
helpful.
And yeah, I'll post this in the usual places and look forward to the next conversation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.